I'd like to call the Personnel Committee meeting to order. Clerk, can you take attendance?
Alderman Taylor. Here. Alderman Sevenik.
Here.
Alderman Kruger.
Here.
Alderman Zielinski.
Here.
Alderman Grady.
Here.
Alderman Benner.
Here.
Alderman Nichols.
Here.
Mayor Merkes.
Here.
Alderman Collier has been excused.
I'll ask for a motion to approve the minutes from the Personnel Committee, 12/18/17. Alderman Benner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At this time, I make a motion to approve the Personnel Committee minutes of 12/18/17.
Second.
Motion's been accepted and seconded by Alderman Kruger.
Discussion.
Any discussion?
All in favor?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we'll go to the action items. Since there's 4 of them here and three of them are kind of involve dollars and stuff, so I'll kind of go one at a time here for action items D. 1, the creation of the engineering supervisory position in training. I would ask that Director Jacobs explain these to the committee.
With all 3 of these, I think I'm going to start off letting the department head that's
Okay.
making the request kind of explain their recommendation to you, and then I'll kind of back it up with the numbers part of it and structurally how the city can work this.
Okay.
So I'll turn it over to Josh first.
So I am requesting to change a position from an engineering aide 3 to a engineering supervisor in training. The engineering supervisor that we currently have is very knowledgeable and has many, many years of experience. However, that also means that he is, getting close to retirement, and he does have some knowledge that does need to be transferred over to, whoever takes over for that position. So I'm recommending that we start that process before he's gone, so that we have time to train the new engineering supervisor while the engineering supervisor is still here. Succession planning, it is something that I do believe in, and I do believe that it creates a much smoother transition and helps with both the city and the employee. So my recommendation is to remove one of the engineering aide 3s and make them an engineering supervisor in training, and make the state or effective on 4/9/18. The engineering aide 3 would be moved from his current top step of the engineering aide 3 to the middle step of the engineering supervisor position, and then after 6 months he would be moved to the 4th step. As you can see, there is a very small amount of money that has been changed for 2018. In the general fund, which is about 35% of the engineering aide 3 salary, it would amount to a change of $1,104. In 2019, the total for the general fund would be a change of $2,231. We feel that this would be easily accommodated within our budget.
Alderman Sevenik.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Why couldn't we just do this without changing? You couldn't hear me?
I hit the wrong button.
Oh, my red light is on.
No, before that.
Oh, I'm sorry. Why couldn't we just do this? I would hope that all our departments try to educate their subordinates to take over potentially their positions or to do a better job. So tell me why it is better to have this in training position as you're requesting.
The engineering aide 3 that we are believing to take over has already been involved with a lot of this work. However, he was, one of the kind of co-directors in the engineering department during the time between Mark and myself. He has done an extraordinary job. I feel that he does deserve to be rewarded with this, increase in pay. Even though it's a slight increase in pay, it would make a world of difference to him, and I do feel that it is the proper way to go about it, to give him more responsibility now, because he does already do a lot, but he will be getting more responsibility if he is given this position.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, or Vice Chairman, if there's no problem or any further questions, I'd like to make a motion.
Oh.
You have questions, James?
Yeah.
Go ahead,
Alderman
make a
Taylor?
motion if you want.
Alderman Taylor, do you have,
That's
Anything to say?
questions, but if you want a motion first, that's fine.
I'll move for the recommendations from staff that the Common Council, we recommend to the Common Council to approve the creation of an engineering supervisor in training position effective 4/9 of 2018 to coincide with the next bi-weekly payroll schedule and to promote the employee from the engineering aid 3, which is a step 5 level, to a step 3 level hourly rate for the engineering supervisor in training position, with future steps to occur after 6 months as outlined, step number 4, and then again after an additional 12 months to step 5 as outlined in this memorandum.
a second? Our motion by Alderman Zevnik, seconded by Alderman Kruger. Any discussion? Alderman Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What is the, Director Ramadowski, what is the education necessary for the Tech 3?
The education for a Tech 3 and a supervisor is both a technical degree, a 2-year technical degree.
And maybe you weren't here, so maybe the mayor could answer this. Between that gap between Director Radke and our current director, weren't they compensated for that extra responsibility during that time, or rewarded for that? Okay, thank you.
I would like to ask Director John Jacobs if you want to add anything to this.
Director Radomski said pretty much everything I was going to add on the
Well,
back
just
end
as
of it.
from the HR. end.
One thing on the HR stand of it, and I know this is something that Candy and I talk about a little bit, is retention. We have to have not only succession planning, but have retention of existing employees, because it's unknown when the retirement may happen for the current employee. So we want to keep our hardworking, very sharp employees on staff, and not just saying, well, okay, whenever that time comes. We'd rather have a plan in motion already for that person if we feel they're highly qualified to step into that role. So retention is one thing that we're going to be looking at, succession planning and other tools to try to keep our really best and sharpest employees here employed with the city.
Thank you. Alderman Nichols?
Thank you. I understand what we're trying to accomplish here. My question has to do with once this person in training moves to that next level, what happens to this position? Does it remain vacant? Does it continue to be budgeted for, even though it might not be filled? What's going to happen?
Once the current engineering supervisor retires, that position would be converted back into an engineering aid 2 at that point. So it'd be it's just kind of taking the supervisor, making it 2 supervisors for now and 2 engineering aides, and then once that one retires, it'll be 1 supervisor again and then 3 aides is how it will be.
Okay, thank you.
Alderman Zevnik?
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. John, you talked a little about retention, and we're training additional people in your comments, but if we're giving people additional education, and this isn't just this position, but if we're giving them further education and training them, do we have them sign any type of letter of employment that they, retention, that they stay here? So that we don't train them, give them this education, and then all of a sudden they're off to De Pere?
We would typically offer them a letter of commitment to the city to remain, with us providing this additional training and opportunity to them.
Okay, how about on the other side? As far as commitment from them after they receive the training?
No, when they,
What is that called? I'm sorry, I'm kind of brain dead here.
The right to work?
What was it?
I said,
No,
the right
it's-
to work state?
No, I'm sorry. No, for instance, we give them this training, this education, then they take a job in Neenah. So sometimes in the private sector, they have to sign an agreement that they won't move, what's it called?
it's a non-compete clause.
There you go. Couldn't
But I
think of it.
don't know, I guess I would revert over to Attorney Captain to, as far as the legality, are we able to have a potential employee sign that?
There we go.
Attorney Captain?
If we have done it, but it's been if someone has gone to outside training that we had to pay for. But this is training that is occurring within the department between one employee passing on the information to another employee, so that is not something that we have done.
Because what I'm saying is we're going to add additional compensation for the training, and it's costing the taxpayer, and we educate a person, and then all of a sudden, they take a new position because now they're educated in all this with this background, and now we're out trying to find somebody. So I'm just trying to cover our end of it. If we're going to make this expense, it's maybe something that either the mayor or John, something that you should possibly be looking at as a non-compete type clause. That's it.
Alderman Taylor?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director Jacobs, on the fiscal impact here, we show the wages just under 4 years at 43 months. What type of percentage of an increase is that? Both for the engineering aide 3 and the supervisor.
2%.
From what we're proposing, going from the Step 5 Engineering Aid 3 to the Engineering Supervisor Step 3, that would be about a 4% increase. Part of the reason for that is because the additional duties for this Engineering Aid 3 position has increased since the person had taken over the additional responsibilities in the vacancy of the outgoing Public Works Director. So additional duties will likely lie with that person, which is outside of what the person had been doing and had been required to do as an Engineering Aid 3 person. So what we're proposing is recognizing that person for doing these and continuing to do some of these duties, like some of the stormwater management and fiscal responsibility that they inherited over a year ago and will continue to retain under Josh's direction.
And the director can't, Director Radke was doing those duties in the past, is that correct?
I was not here, so I don't know what role that person played.
I believe Director Radke did do some of those duties. I'm not sure exactly how many, and I know that the Engineering Aid 3 that took them over has expanded those duties, well beyond what they were before, and made the city, move a lot smoother along those lines.
Thank you.
Oh, okay.
I can comment on that, in that the laws have changed with regard to stormwater as well over the last, number of years, and so there have been additional duties that have been added, or additional responsibilities that have been added, and I believe that the director did work with the staff and, learning what those new laws were and things that we had to, changes that we had to make.
Any further questions? Okay, let's take a roll call vote.
Motion carried on roll call 7-1.
6-1? Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Stand corrected. Okay, action item 2, modification of the public health educator position from 80% full-time employee to 100% full-time employee. Director Nancy McKinney, could you enlighten us on this?
Sure. We have had a public health educator position open since January. Our former public health educator was at 80% FTE, and she made a career change and went into environmental health full-time for the Winnebago County. So we posted the position at 30 hours a week or 60 hours per year, and we did get really good candidates. The 2 top candidates were master's degree prepared public health educators. They both had community health education specialist designations, which is preferred for this position. It is a professional position. Looking at the role of the public health educator, that person would be responsible for social media, doing CPR first aid, doing growth and development talks in the schools, also working with Todd Drew on safety, weights and measures, and environmental health, leading our prevention program and community health assessment. They would support our oral health program with education and evaluation, and they would be our maternal and child health lead, and the communicable disease grant that we just referenced, and they'd also be the bioterrorism lead. So it's a full plate. It requires somebody with definitive skill sets. This particular top candidate we're looking at has a Master of Science in Health Behavior and Health Education. They have a Bachelor of Science in Health Sciences. They are currently a public health educator in a health department. They are a certified health education specialist. They're a certified lactation education counselor, which is really an advantage for our health department because we do work with newborn families of newborns, and we also, this particular person would be leading our maternal and child health program, which promotes breastfeeding-friendly workplaces. They also have experience in program management, budgeting, evaluating programs, maternal and child health, emergency preparedness. They have the full set of incident command education. They are skilled in community health assessment, analysis, and reporting. They also have done respiratory fit testing, which is something that Todd Drew does every year with our city employees as part of the safety program. And, really, I'm really looking for somebody that has some performance management experience that can help us really evaluate how we're doing and tell the story about how we're doing. This particular candidate we're looking at is preferring a full-time position with benefits, and I think this is a good opportunity for the city to take advantage of this full array of skill sets. They have expressed that they're eager to come to Menasha and to use their skill sets as well. So I think we're very fortunate to have a candidate of this caliber.
Thank you, Nancy. Alderman Kruger.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Nancy, really quick, this is being funded by the grant system, correct?
There would be, the change that we would have is that we would need to add, make this 37.5. It's currently at 30. hours per week, and we want 37.5. So half of those hours would be out of 0903, which is our health department budget, which is half levy, half school district. And then 1.75 hours would be communicable disease, and 2.25 would be bioterrorism. We know we have enough funding to be able to manage that. So I guess where the question is that you want to answered is that there is a tiny bit of 0903 city funds that would go to support this position.
And I take it you're pretty confident that in the following years, the grant money will be there to cover this position in those
Yes.
same percentages?
I'm very confident, and I think this is a good opportunity for the city. And John just whispered to me, don't forget, we have the census coming up. So this person would be assisting with, helping with the census as well as our community assessment. So they would have a very full plate. I have high expectations of this position, and, I would love the opportunity to be able to mentor with this person, too.
Thank you.
As we have it shown on, in their packet for I wanted to run the 2019 estimate for you, so you had an idea before you just approved something for 18 and not know what would happen for 19's budget. It would be an increased total cost of about $23,000. However, the 0903, the public health component of that would be roughly only about $4,600 increase. So of the amount of additional hours and with some of the additional grant dollars that we have available, we're only looking at a very small contribution, maybe about 20% increase in the funding of this extra 7.5 hours a week, funded by the tax levy. The rest of it would be funded by other sources, both by fees and with the additional grant dollars assigned to it.
Any further discussion? I'd ask for a motion to forward this to the Common Council. Alderman Taylor?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our requirement here, we don't have a 40-hour work week anymore. It's a 37.5.
It's 37.5.
Is that all the employees in the health department?
We have, in the last budget, we allowed Mr. Drew to work up to 40 hours per week. He's technically 37.5 with the opportunity to work up to 40 hours, which he's doing,
When we hired the last person that had this job, part of that reason was because of her qualifications to help run the farmer's market. Now, is that correct?
The farmer's market was a separate position from the public health educator position.
Okay, so the gal that just left, she did run the farmer's market.
She did, but that was separate from the position we hired her for as the public health educator.
Okay, but was that her responsibility to run the farmer's market?
Not as part of the health department.
Now you're confusing me. The employee that were filling this position, did she work as a coordinator for the farmer's market?
Perhaps America can enlighten you on that.
I'm not exactly sure what the percentage, I think Jamie was at .6 or something to that effect, so she worked, 25 hours a week, something to that effect, as a health department employee, and then she worked an additional 6 or 7 hours a week as a farm market employee. So it wasn't part of her health department job. It was a whole separate, it was like basically we hired her for 2 different jobs, is what we had done in that case. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Two different accounts.
Yes.
Well, it's still the person's responsibility. Now, we are taking away the farmer's market responsibility.
It wasn't part of her health department responsibilities.
Be the person.
But she did the job, though.
Yes, but that came out of a different account.
I don't care what budget it came out of. She
Okay.
was an employee here, and she worked for the health department, and she ran
And
the
we
farmer's
added
market.
extra hours
And it-
onto her day to run the farm market.
So she had 30 hours in the health department?
Do you know what exactly?
Well, she started out at .5, and then she came in and worked with the farmer's market for an additional, it was
5 to 10 hours a week,
10
something to
hours a
that
week.
effect.
And then, because we anticipated an increase in revenue from the environmental health piece, and we are now getting revenue from the city of De Pere for working with the bridges over Fox River. That person naturally we had to make sure that there was backup for Todd Drew so that he could do his work.
Okay. Let's say this person that left didn't leave. Would she be running the farmer's market this year?
I don't know that she would. Oh, you mean now? No, she would not, this year, she would not be doing the farmer's market. There would not be enough time. She may or may not, I guess, would be the answer, but she would be at 30 hours per week, so it would be a little difficult for her to squeeze in another 10 on a different project in a different area.
The dollars that paid for her salary as running the farm market are still in the farm market budget, and we have a different person doing that this year.
Correct.
Does that make?
But I was just saying, if this person didn't leave, she was doing the farmer's market. I'm just trying to figure out the responsibilities here of the employee.
Look at it, look at it.
as a side job.
Look at it like this. This person worked at the city for 30 hours a week and then went over to Parker John's and worked a second job. That's what that person was doing.
Okay.
That the farm market really had nothing to do with her, with this position whatsoever.
I don't have but when that was brought to us, that was part of it was sold. Her background was to help run this farmer's market because of some
No,
qualifications.
we hired her after, for the farm market, after she already had been offered
Right.
the job
Yeah,
for
I
the
know,
health
but there was
department.
some dialogue and about that
Yeah,
correspondence.
that she was interested, yes.
About that because of her background. Okay, thank you.
Does HR want to add anything about this to the table? Candy, you're looking like you want to say something. Oh,
If Jamie were still here and this position, Nancy got it bumped up to 80%, there wouldn't be time for it, so we posted the farm market manager position online with the intent to hire someone separate for the farmer's market.
Alderman Sevenick?
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. At this time, I'll move for a recommendation to the Common Council to approve the modification of the public health educator position from an 80% FTE, is it to 100%?
Yes.
To be effective immediately and to be included in all future budgetary years. Of course, not in 2018's budget adjustment would be required at all of this action, since there is an estimate to be $5,158. Is that the wrong motion?
I just was mentioning that to be included in all future budgetary years.
Yeah, I just thought
you
that
can't
read wrong.
do that, yeah.
Exactly, so I think the intent of
But other than that-
was to say is that this will become a
Permanent.
permanent position.
Correct.
So,
Thank you, Attorney Captain, for
Yeah.
that clarification.
and after I read it, I'm like, why did I even read that? But anyways, okay, so the estimate would be $5,158 in budgetary savings with the occurrence of an estimate 3 months vacancy in this position. Is that correct, or?
That part didn't have to be part of the motion, but that at least was what I was trying to indicate, that we don't have to amend the 2000.
Because it's there.
Correct.
Right.
It is there, and there's still money left over that we can carry forward to even fund portion of it for next year.
Sounds good. Need a second.
We have a motion by Alderman Sevenick and a second by Alderman Kruger. Alderman Nichols? No? No? Any discussion? Take a roll call vote.
Motion carried on roll call, 6-2.
Go on to action item 3, the creation of an IT help desk technician position, Information Systems Fund. Director Jacobs?
I can start this one off, since this is coming from our department request, from IT. As in my memo, I kind of indicated some thoughts that myself and Patrick James have had with where we have been. I obviously have not been here a full year yet, but Patrick has kind of clued me in the last 3 to 4 years of how things have operated under the IT department and the additional growing needs and requests for services and from the other departments. And with technology continuing to increase in our facility here. So what we have had a little bit of struggling with trying to maybe meet the needs on as timely basis as we would like to. We have a BOSS system that actually has tickets that the departments actually do submit in for requests for services. It does have a date and time that they're marked in there, and then it does indicate who they get passed off to and what kind of a priority level. So we do have kind of a in-house system right now that kind of keeps track of the log of dialogue, and then when we can actually clear out tickets and things as we go forward in time. But the thing is that Patrick is the only full-time person with our department that services all the different departments of the city, and except for the fire department. However, and we're in multiple buildings, of course, so it's just getting to the point where this is not a one-person job, and especially if a person would like to take a day off. We do have, and after Patrick and I talked about this at budget time, we kind of had kind of a little bit of a longer-term plan of how to approach this and deal with this issue. And when I looked at this a couple months ago after the budget was done already, we looked to see that there are dollars available in the IT fund already. However, we're not utilizing them as best as we can. With the intern position, which we funded at 2.5 days a week, we basically are getting maybe 1 day a week. And with the contracted services that we have through Marco, through out of Green Bay, we have the person here, and I mean, that's costlier than it would be to have an employee on staff. So basically, we're taking the dollars that were allotted, which is about $60,000, and saying, realistically, we could probably do with contracted services 1 day every other week, and then reallocate the dollars so we have another person here on staff 5 days a week, 37.5 hours in a week. So our recommendation to you, and Patrick can give some more background information since he's been here when there was another full-time person in the department, and how the last 3 to 4 years have gone with just having a contracted provider and an intern to work with in the department, where all the other full-time responsibilities fell on him. Otherwise, what we're looking for is just the recommendation to add a new full-time person to the department, adding them at a somebody that's got 1 to 2 years level experience with an associate degree, and we feel that that would be the best reallocation of dollars within the IT department.
Alderman Sevenick?
I'm sure that you have a lot that you want to say, but we've heard it and we understand this position is needed, and therefore I just want to make the motion, because I've talked about this in the past too. So I will move that the Common Council approve the creation of an IT help desk technician.
I'll second that.
Motion made by Alderman Sevenick, seconded by Alderman Kruger. Any discussion? Have a roll call vote? What? Sorry, Alderman Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, I asked this question. We don't have any 40-hour work weeks here in this building, except for department heads that are sitting here. So this new position won't be a 40-hour work week?
No, this would be 37 and a half.
Okay.
7.5,
And-
or 7.5 hours a day.
Is the 40-hour work week, is that something that's gone?
There are workers out at the garage that work 8 hours a day, but here at City Hall it's 37 and a half a week.
Okay.
Mayor?
I'd just like to comment on the 37.5 hour work week. That was a decision that was made in 2000-something, single digits. That was before I was even mayor. All the positions that were not union positions at that point were reduced to 37.5 hours as a cost-saving measure to make our budgets work. So that reduced all the hourly employees' salaries down by that 2.5 hours a week. So that has been since probably the early 2000s. Late 90s, okay. So it's been for a very long time that we've used that 37.5 hour work week.
However, I can add to that, that of all the salaried employees that I've worked with up on second floor, there's nobody that's working 37.5 hours of work here. We love our job so much. We are here 40, 45, and we love evening meetings, so.
Alderman Nichols?
Thank you. Director Jacobs, on the last page of your memo, it says that the estimated hiring salary will be $40,000, depending on qualifications. And I'm curious whether or not that includes benefits, fringe benefits, and how we've included that in our budgeting.
That would be $40,000 salary, and with the fringe benefits added to it,
Comes like 55.
we are roughly about $26,000 would give or take with fringe benefits. So we're ballpark right now, we're estimating of roughly about $67,000 for wages and fringe benefits. And that would be on the high end because we do not know if it would be somebody that has what coverage level they have, if it's family or single. So we're estimating on the very conservative side right now, depending on, but we want to try to get the best candidate, so.
To be clear, both the hiring salary and the fringe benefits are included in your budgetary analysis
Yes.
of this position, and we know that we have it covered.
Correct. The thing is, the way I only feel I can pitch this to, or to propose and recommend this to the council would be, is if we could sustain this without an impact to the other departments. Because we are adding a position. However, we can reallocate the dollars we already have in the budget. So what I looked at is roughly, it's about $122,000 between what we already have budgeted for intern and for a contracted services level, and then just reshuffle those dollars, and that we can make this work by adding another full-time person in, giving Patrick another 37.5 hours a week for an additional person to assist him Monday through Friday, and still accommodate all the department needs on a much more timely basis without impacting and asking for another, 10% or increase from across the departments for this one position being added. And we can sustain this for roughly about 4 years through 2021.
Thank you.
Alderman Taylor?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just like to say Patrick's done an outstanding job under the circumstances through the years, and we all appreciate that. And with Director Sino here, there was kind of a different focus on IT. Do we still have like an IT committee? I know the chief was on the committee and Director Sino, and do we still kind of have that framework?
When I first arrived, I met with the police chief, the mayor, Patrick, supervisor of the IT area, myself met the first couple months when I first got here. And since that, I work with Patrick, and Patrick does consult with our consultant probably every 2 weeks he's here. I'm just trying to find out what the I know the highest priority needs are right now that we should be addressing, especially if it's in the public safety area, which should be a higher priority at all times. We have not had a formal IT committee since I've been here yet, and I don't know the last time there was a meeting, if it was probably a year or two ago, but it's something, I think Patrick and I have kicked around the idea of having some of the once we're back up to full staffing, have the departments submit in their kind of longer-term strategic planning tools. I mean, some of them Patrick and I already know. And Chief Steica has shared a few things with me also during the budget process. So we probably could restart that IT steering committee again, but I would like to get to full staff first and then have a request out to all the departments of what are you looking at long-term needs. Document imaging has been on the radar for at least 5 or 10 years, and that hasn't gone anywhere yet. Yet we've been funding it and have the funds to get it going, but we do not have a staff person to be able to work with the departments on a regular basis to get this project done.
I think it's important that at some point, you meet with department heads together or separately, and it's an ever-changing world, that's for sure, IT. So again, Patrick, excellent job through the last 4 years here.
Any further discussion? Let's take a roll call vote.
Motion carried on roll call, 8-0.
Okay, last action item on the agenda, the removal of the operations captain position and create the deputy chief position. Chief Steica, would you like to comment on this?
Sure, real quick. This is something we're actually looking at doing a little bit later in the year, but with the timing of these other positions coming up, we figured we'd add this to the personnel committee instead of having a different one. In essence, long story short with this, in benchmarking and looking at other agencies, what ends up happening is, generally speaking, when you have a captain's position, you usually have 2 captains. Captains would then be in charge of various divisions within a police department. So Grand Chute, Fox Valley Metro, Germantown, Greendale, Hartford, Everest Metro, Watertown, all of those are about our size, and they have 2 captains. So instead of having or asking you for an additional captain's position, we look at the other ones that are about our size, like Kaukauna, Beaver Dam, Onalaska, Pleasant Prairie, and Two Rivers. They go with an organizational structure of having a deputy chief or someone directly underneath the chief itself. So in my absence, we know specifically and directly who would be in charge of the department. We ran into this issue when the other issue you have is if you have 2 captains, who's in charge in my absence? And when Bob Stanky, those who recall when he had his heart attack a number of years ago, no one really knew who was in charge. So we feel that this is a more appropriate structure to just change the wording of the captain and go to a deputy chief. We're not looking for any additional money, no real change. It's just what you would be calling him or what people from the outside and inside would recognize it. And I know that's been something that's somewhat of a confusion if you don't know the paramilitaristic terms of who's higher, a captain, a lieutenant, a sergeant. People may not know that, but it's pretty clear if you hear deputy chief that would be the number 2 guy in the department. That's the short version.
Thank you. Alderman Taylor?
Make a motion to remove operations captain position and create the deputy chief position.
Second.
We have a motion by Alderman Taylor and a second by Alderman Kruger. Any further discussion? Have a roll call vote?
Motion carried on roll call, 8-0.
Okay. That looks like that's it for the Personnel Committee. I would like, yes, I'd like to, second, good. Boom, that's how you do it.
Broadcasts of the City of Menasha Administration Committee, Board of Public Works, and Common Council meetings are produced by University Studios of the University of Wisconsin-Fox Valley. Menasha residents and interested parties can obtain information about these meetings and meeting agendas from the city website, www.cityofmenasha-wi.gov. Expression of opinions regarding City of Menasha issues or about these broadcasts can be made by contacting the mayor's office, 920-967-5117. Contacting their city alderman. Contact information appears on the website. Completing the electronic feedback form on the website. All public portions of the meetings are recorded in entirety and are not edited for playback.